Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I want to talk to you about 4 fears that may be holding you back and how to eliminate them. Number one, let's talk a little bit about fear. Fear is actually something that is good to have, obviously, when you're a little kid and your mom says don't run out into the street and you're afraid so you don't. That is an example of good fear. But what happens over time is we let our fear of things that don't even matter stop us in our tracks. How many times have you worried about what does that person think of me? Would he say if I did this? What would she say? What would my mom say? What would my dad say? My sister, my brother, my best friend? We start to worry so much about what people think, even total strangers, that we do not live up to our full potential. Think about this. Are you holding yourself back because of the fear of failure? Are you afraid to fail? How many times have you thought, well, if I do that and I fail, then everybody will think that I'm no good, that I'm nobody, that I'm not good enough? The reality is you are good enough, and you don't need to be afraid of failure because you can fail your way to the top. Do you know how many multimillionaires failed their way to the top? There are so many examples. For example, the Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken. He was already in his 60s before he came across the recipe that would work and had somebody buy his chicken. Think about it. Now it is a huge franchise. You can think of Abraham Lincoln. Do you know how many times he was defeated before he became the president of the United States? Think about all of these people that you've heard about in history. Time and time again, you hear about people who failed, or they started out in dire poverty, or in awful situations where they were lost or held captive, or something really awful happened to them. Think about that. But yet they survived and they rose up to become well known. So think about it. What would you do if you knew absolutely positively that you could not fail? Would you do whatever your heart's desire is? Or would you still sit there afraid and trying to learn more, being perfectionist? Perfectionism is stagnation. Perfectionism will get you absolutely zippo zero zilch because you'll never start. Reality. What are you afraid of? Think about your fear of failure. It might actually be the reverse. You're afraid to be successful. How many silly people have you heard that they're afraid to make too much money because then they'd have to pay more taxes? Or they don't want to make too much money because then they might lose their Social Security. What in the world are you thinking? Wouldn't you rather be a multimillionaire able to do whatever you darn well please than live off of $1,000 a month? Think about that. Who wants to fail in order to have $1,000 a month in Social Security when you could be living anywhere in the world, living the way you want without worrying about having Social Security? Why put a limit on yourself? I know many people who do. Oh, I can only make so much money. So you know what happens to them? They devalue who they are. Think about that. Are you willing to devalue who you are just so that you might get $1,000 a month when you could be having the universe giving you millions? Think about that. Are you afraid of failure, or are you really afraid of success? Because of what might happen. What people worry about, oh, well, if I win the lottery, I might end up having to pay taxes and all these things. It's like, well, think about it. If you did win the lottery and you had all that money, hopefully you would be smart enough to go see an attorney and an accountant and all those people who would have the knowledge you lack, so that you wouldn't screw it all up and lose it or have to pay a whole bunch of taxes. But think of all the good you could do. A poor person can only give in time. A wealthy person can give in time and money and services. Which would you rather do? Would you rather only be able to volunteer a limited amount of time? Or would you like to be able to give so that you could have a worldly impact? Because financial support and time support can make a huge difference. So ask yourself, are you afraid of failure or afraid of success? Are you afraid of being alone? Pascal said, all men's miseries derive from not being able to sit in a quiet room alone. Think about that. Do you fear being alone with your own thoughts so that you can actually think? Are you on Facebook all the time? Are you like always connected? Do you have your umbilical cord telephone connected? Or do you ever get told, oh, I couldn't reach you. You didn't answer your phone. And I was actually told that the other day and I kind of laughed. It's like, well, if you really wanted to get a hold of me, send me an email or something, because I am not attached to my telephone. I am not ever going to use my telephone like an umbilical cord to the world, because I love my alone time. I need my alone time. Death. How many people are actually afraid of death? Of all the things in the world that I'm not afraid of, it's death. And I don't know that if I'm unique or not, but if you do believe in a higher power, and especially if you believe in heaven or anything like that, what's there to be afraid of? Seriously, the people who are left behind are the people who seem to have the hardest trouble when we leave or when we die. But think about that. People, human beings, do have a fear of death because it is the fear of the unknown, or ceasing to exist. But again, if you have a belief system where you believe that you have a soul and that you will still exist even after the body is gone, ask yourself, well, what am I really afraid of? That's a good question. Maybe you're afraid of heights or snakes, or think about all the things that you could be afraid of that stops you from living. Think about that. Are you afraid of doing something that actually stops you from being the full human being you are? If so, you really need to start focusing on that and figure out, what am I really afraid of? The future. Some people are terrified of tomorrow. Some people live in the past. What about the now? The future, really, we don't know what the future holds. So if you live in the now and live with full knowing and love and caring for the world and our fellow human beings, think about the future will come no matter if we're here or not. So we shouldn't really be afraid of it. Think about, if you are constantly afraid, what is the underlying reason? You have to deal with these issues because fear will stop you. You cannot live in the fear of terrorism or war or crime or violence. Turn off the TV, turn off the radio, quit putting this crap on Facebook about all the awful things in the world, and don't dwell on it. It doesn't do you any good. Many of you have never experienced anything remotely close to some of the things that come on television. And remember, the purpose of the news is they go out, and out of all the thousands and millions of things that happen every day, they find the one or two things that are the scariest things happening and report on them over and over and over again. So you feel like the world is this bad, evil place. When in fact, the world overall is a beautiful place. There is nothing to be afraid of. So I think you need to really work on that, because fear is not going to do you any good. You want to make sure that you start thinking about, how can I live my life in a positive way so that I can make a positive impact. So I've talked about 4 different fears that can hold you back. Think about that. Think about what you can do to start eliminating those fears. Remember, fear is false evidence appearing real. You want to live in the now and think about how beautiful the world is and how beautiful the world can be, and how you have a message to share and you want to get that message out. This is Tamara Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.